Chris, you threw me down a rabbit hole.
with ancient theories or hypotheses of Egypt and the pyramids and megalithic structures and
Yes.
ancient societies.
Yeah, well, it's the recent findings in Egypt. What's funny is when you do a podcast, sometimes they have things that you read. Not us. Not us. So don't take me, you do your own research, but this is for enjoyment here. So we are going to talk about how to use real life happenings in world building. And recently, Egypt, or you can elaborate on this. I don't know who the person is that found it. I know he's Italian. They use some sort of imaging to find what? Well, it's, you
Well,
explain.
there's
You're the expert here on the stuff.
no expert, just someone who is excited. So there's some technology, or there's technology they use to take imaging from satellites,
Right.
and there's a novel way to interpret that data to potentially see what's below the Earth. And they potentially found other structures below the pyramids. And there's a lot of other theories around the pyramids that I've been throwing you down rabbit holes from after that. But there's the power plant theory. There's the other one I recently been going down, the industrial chemical processing.
Right.
There's old societies. There's, who knows, even if they were tombs, that's still something that you can build from and have fun with in your game. But the fun rabbit hole that I threw you down is,
well, yeah. So what is underneath the pyramids? Now I've pulled up a YouTube. Chris, I think you've seen all of these.
probably.
All of the, where did it go now? There we go. All of everything, right? So what they did was they took this thing called what, SARS or something. And
Well,
they put it in, and they found, and I'm just pulling up the
Yeah.
images that they saw. So the one on the left here, which is the red, and then they shows the columns underneath,
yeah.
and the one on the right shows what they think. And this
So
is huge.
the technology is what they're claiming is they can use the vibrations of the ground and what's around them to see what's being absorbed or how it's transmitting differently through different materials to get structures or shapes. And they've done some tests before to see things, but never that deep. But I think people are going to start it just gives a jumping point for a reasoning for people to go dig.
It's insane. So I didn't know anything about it. I'm just pulling up more images here for people to see. So I always thought, yeah, there were tombs, there were unexplored caverns and stuff like that. But you'd think, I was just thinking caveman painting stuff. Essentially, there's just more. And I don't mean to shoot down on anything, because I'm a little bit ignorant on the subject. But cave paintings that Egyptians did.
Yeah.
And just they have a lot of gods that they worship and stuff like that. But what you did was you sent me a bunch of articles and stuff and videos, which I watched, which is great. And what we found out was so imagine you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. Imagine, and I was just, when I was doing it, I was like, wow, Chris,
There we go.
Yeah, we have to totally figure out how
Pyramid of Skulls.
Use more real life things in the world building. It makes it a lot easier. So
yeah,
I will during this conversation sort of jump in and try to remember to bring it back to our world that we build.
Well, we've talked about adding other aspects of our everyday life into the games.
Yes.
Like the holidays or popular events or politics or other fun things that we've added into our games. It's just one other aspect. And a lot of campaign settings have this sort of history. They have these great societies in the past that have come and fallen. They've had these foreigners or aliens come to the planet, like the D&D setting, Faerun. There are I'm forgetting the name of them, the Nephilim. I'm thinking of the Nephilim from something else. But you have the old ancient society where the cities were floating and then they crashed down, and it's magic that hasn't been able to be reclaimed. So you have these ideas, and they all come from the world around us, come
Oh
from
yeah.
the history
But
that
let's
we
take
see.
let's take specifically this pyramid thing. So
Right.
what I find interesting is I just watched that documentary on Netflix about the Ice Age and how you just remember the Ice Age. It was what, 4,000, 20,000 BC, and my dates are
But
gonna be off.
the
But the
12,000, the theories right now are 12,800 for
right,
the Younger Dryas impact theory, if you're believing in
right.
that.
So they have these civilizations. Now we've proven that like man walked the earth, and you have smart people there. You
Right.
have cave paintings, and you have art, and you have,
Mhm.
as I said to you before, I was a fine art student in college. They had these old sculptures, and one of the oldest sculptures in the world was 40,000 BC, maybe even further, of a large woman, and that was supposed to be symbolic of the moon and perhaps a fertility cycle.
Right.
So these people weren't stupid. They knew about fertility. They knew about the moon, especially space. We'll get into that. And then it was the Ice Age. So they had these big walls of ice. Now imagine you had these glaciers, and this documentary goes into it where you have the civilization, you have these glaciers that are melting, and what happens when a big sheet of ice melts? It melts in the middle, and
Mhm.
it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. That pool of water builds, and then when it gets
Yeah.
warm enough, the wall
Okay.
cracks. So
Correct.
imagine Game of Thrones. That wall cracks, and
Yeah.
boom, huge
Floods.
flood of water comes down. All the ecosystems change because you have the fresh water mixing with the salt water, and
Uh,
ocean currents
just
changes, and all
the
this
force of the
stuff.
water
Yes.
reshaping the earth.
Yep.
That's what happened all throughout North America.
Right. And you also have to remember the dry age. I mean, the ice age was dry too. So you had
Mhm.
it was that's where all the water was. So you have this huge amount of water, and everyone is terrified, and it happens over and over again every winter.
Mhm.
This type of thing
Yep.
all around the world. So you have these cultures that have similar myths, and if you bring that back to Dungeons and Dragons, perhaps there's a big event of some kind in your world where each culture that you see has a slightly different take on it. So Noah and the flood, and then you got the one in the Eastern era. Then you got
Mm.
the one in the South Americas, and you got the Egyptians have a flood, the Jews have a flood, and every religion sort of seems to have some sort of indication of a flood around that time period. And what makes this Egyptian finding important to me is that I think that it's going to add another layer onto this religious aspect in our world, because we're playing a campaign where how do you defeat a god? You kill its followers. So belief gives power to the god. And I think that in some way, I'm not condoning anything. I'm just
Yes.
saying that
Yep.
if you have a belief system and the power is in believing, and everyone that believes in it no longer believes in that system dies.
Right.
So
Yep.
I just think it's interesting, because now is this going to take power away from religion if you say, what, there were people that built these before the Egyptians, because that's what it's indicating, right? That's what it's
Well,
sort of suggesting.
well, there's a lot of different answers there,
Yeah.
a lot of different theories
Yeah.
or hypotheses, but the Sphinx is considered to be a lot older, if it's based on water erosion from stuff around it, it's much older than that. But even even the precision of all of the engineering, not just how they move the stones, just how do they measure everything? There's a lot of the lost history of society. How are things passed down over generations? For a lot of people, it was through song or story, and that can get changed, or parts of history can be lost, and tales can be lost through that.
Lord.
So there's a lot of things that could change and be be shifted from who knows how long ago.
I mean, so world building aspect in Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
So you
Well,
have multiple. There are multiple different things. So what I'm just trying to show in this and relating it back,
Right.
and it's still being discovered. We don't know what it is. Everyone has their own myth.
Yeah.
But you could have adventure parties. We haven't even talked about adventure parties yet in our Let's Talk Lore, and maybe we will in the near future. But sometimes the adventure parties will be obviously they're looking. Maybe you run into someone that's trying to investigate this cave, and there's a rival adventure party, and or maybe there's more than one, and they each
Right.
have their own theory about what it is. So, and that's
Right.
also what's happening too. Certain people believe it's going to be a machine. You sent me
Or
during
aliens.
during the well, that's the last one. During the rabbit hole thing you sent me down.
Right.
Some people are believing that the pyramid, especially the Great One, acts as some sort of chemical harnessing energies. There's some sort of chemistry. I was not very good at chemistry. Let me tell you, there's a table, and that's all I know. Water. But
So the big thing is red granite is when you compress it, it can generate the piezoelectric effect, same way it does. So you can manipulate with electricity and the stone. You can do a lot of things, and there's a lot of theories on all of those. And why not? And here's the world building aspect of it: take any one of those theories and make them real. Like, how does that look in your world if that is real?
I love that.
And how cool would that be?
And you can flip it on its head.
Yeah.
Oh, this pyramid we found, or this cave or dungeon we found, there's something located underneath it or above it. And
Yeah.
if we find out, it sort of indicates that there's some sort of whatever. And it could lead to the gods getting angry. It could lead to disproving the king. There's plenty of world building opportunities in it.
It could also be ancient ruins from giants. So it might just be an old toilet or an old outhouse from when giants lived there 15,000 years ago, and people put religious value because they were these large structures that withstood time.
Right. It's crazy. So this guy said that and these columns underneath are not small. They are huge.
So,
and if the imaging is correct, which there's still questions about whether or not the imaging is accurate.
Right.
Because when you go as a plumber,
it's all new technology.
As a plumber, you take out your infrared sensor to see what's hot and what's cold. You don't get any information besides that area right there is red. That means it's hot. Like, that's it.
Right.
That's all there's. And I feel this technology, though it's far more advanced than that, probably interpreting it and reading it and honing it down, you need a little bit of more experience with it, maybe. But if what they're saying is correct, those columns underneath are the height of the Empire State Building, which means that these people, the people dug, and it's
worked or did something.
Yeah. And imagine who built the pyramids. Like that documentary I watched was showing that it's physically impossible for the Mayans to have sculpted with accuracy and built those walls, these massive boulders, with the technology that we think they had.
Yeah.
Which means that they had something else.
The copper chisel theory for a lot of the stuff, and anytime they try and prove it, they just have destroyed tools.
That's crazy.
So and it's not even the tools, it's not the advanced technology I mentioned before, it's the way that they're so precise across the structure of them. Or if you go and set up for a project at a construction site, you have the survey people there, they set all the lines, they set up where everything is going to go. The precision of the pyramids are far superior to anything except laser today. And even with a lot of that stuff, it's still how do you get it across that vast distance and maintain it with the weight shifts and everything else.
But it's more than
Like
that.
there's
it's how so
yeah,
how they do it. They
it's
say
more than that,
all the slaves
but
built it.
it's
All
even that
yeah,
it's even
but
that simple. It's not even, you don't even have to go to how did they move the stone so far. It's how did they just measure it?
right.
Just go to the simple things. And but there's far more than we know. There are scans of the entire plateau with tunnels, and if you have videos online of people walking around plateaus, like, look, there's a shaft that goes down, there's a grate over it. You can see it just goes. People have been throwing garbage in all of these pits for generations. But people drop stuff in and just goes for a long distance. And
Oh, yeah.
all the extra shafts all around the pyramids.
But is it was
Well,
it man
there's
is it man-made? Is it just a deep crevice? It could be I mean, it really could be
it could be access to underground caverns,
right.
because I think there are underground caverns from old, I think, gas deposits of some sort. I forget. I think sulfur maybe, but there are underground caverns there, and could be access to it. Or if the industrial chemical processing theory is true, it's just transfer lines between different chemicals.
I think that when you analyze this and you try to don't think about taking a real world issue of this or happening and bringing it directly into your game, but just the way they're thinking about the different theories. And then there's a story that could be told through it. It's okay. Why do people, if there are columns and an underground tomb way
Yep.
underground or underground living area for people,
Right.
why did they do that? And one of the theories that I love is that during this time period of constant flooding and death and fear of the gods,
Right.
because you have all this water. Now, people will believe in those gods, that they will have
Mhm.
wrath, I would imagine. I think that they were digging down to survive, and also and one of the theories was to keep knowledge. Atlantis during the flood, one of the floods, the Noah flood, for example,
Right.
like that place just disappeared. It
Mhm.
flooded, it just went away. And that place apparently was one of the more technologically innovative, and not even technology, but also just thinking wise, smart. You got to remember, people
Yeah.
didn't write; they spoke. They memorized their stuff through. They
Well,
Homer wasn't written; it was remembered, and
I
so
was
the
told.
myths and stuff were it was
Yeah.
told. I would imagine that some of that information technology was also told, but
Mhm.
I think that you're going to find down there some really interesting things about technology and whatnot. And why would you put technology or information that if you had it down there, it might not be true, but that type of questioning is what you can bring into your games. So it's
Yeah. Well,
what's the big bad that's causing this? Is it a big bad? Is it just a tornado? Is it, and how does that shape your world? Like,
Mhm.
you also have people, the Egyptian dude, who for whatever reason, it feels, and I know social media only wants to show you what it thinks the algorithm wants you to see. The preference of all the algorithms is to keep you on it. So it's going to show you what it thinks is going to keep you there. So I get in my feeds a lot of rumors and it's sort of painting this guy in Egypt, the head archaeologist, has a sort of a villain character who's trying to stop people from getting in there and exploring it. For what reason is another interesting thing
Yeah.
to bring into your game.
Like
You don't,
what? Like if assume it's true. What are they hiding?
yeah,
Make make it up. That's the fun part of D&D. It's you we talked before where you can have a great way to work into everyday situations in life and understand the world around us and help our own selves. But it's also really fun to explore all of these crazy theories and ideas in the world of how even our society, we have the seed vault or bank, whatever, in the Arctic to keep a record of seeds. So if something happened in the world, we could rebuild from there. All right, put your game in the post apocalypse of the world is trying to rebuild from this seed bank, and the world needs your help to go find it and get it.
Right. I think that there's a
There's
lot
your adventure.
when you look at the different players in the game here in the Egypt thing, why they don't want people to see or who's closing them out. Look at the military there.
Right.
They're chaining the places
Oh.
up. It kind of shows you a little bit. It helps you when you look at it from the D&D lens, how to play your NPCs
Yeah.
a little bit more creatively and a little bit better, because the guy says that he's already discovered everything. You know, you saw that Joe Rogan
Yeah.
clip.
Yeah.
He says, I've discovered it. I discovered. I mean, be a little bit more egotistical. I mean, it's hard to not view this guy as a villain when he's so egotistical about it. But is he being over the top because he's trying to preserve the Egyptians'
Legacy.
status and legacy? Because you're not doing a very good job. You know, like
Yeah.
what it's indicating is that
Or are you
the-
trying to hide something and distract and have all the attention about you and not what's behind the door?
the time it took to build the pyramids, start to finish, it said it was 100, 200 years, something like that, like the big one.
Right.
The time it would take to excavate 8 columns, build it, support it, go down, excavate more, bring the stuff up, and then the columns are sitting on something that could be a large as a small
Chamber.
city, like a
Yeah.
small city block. That's what we came to. That's what
Yeah.
the measurements. It's not a big avenue, but a small downtown block, New York City. But that's a huge undertaking that would have taken years and years and years to do. And it was built if the Egyptians did it, it would have been built during a time period that you wouldn't have that construction.
Yeah.
I was reading something. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe that what I read about that was, how do you know it's not the Egyptians that built it or early Egyptians? It's because during that time period there was a lot of warfare. There was a lot of different parties, so you don't have
The level of coordination,
right
large scale for
right.
that prolonged period of time without disruption.
Right. And also if you follow the history back of those parties, there's not a long enough time period within which those parties
Mhm.
could develop the brain power
Well,
to do
well,
that. Which
yeah,
is
it's
like,
what you said. It's also not just the construction of it. It's developing the technology to be able to do it. You don't develop the technology and do the final product perfect like that.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
But you have me down another rabbit hole.
If this
But,
is
I mean-
true, and they did build it, this will be the biggest wonder of the world. And it was only done and practiced one time. Like, and it was perfect.
Well, and if it's something that is true, that I would want to do everything I can to prove it. Like, if it's true, all the evidence is there for all of the everything. You should be able to find all of that there. Just dig it up and look at it. You'll explore it all.
Right.
But societies have been building on top of the ruins of prior civilizations for the history of societies.
Yes.
Look in South America in any of the larger cities, and you see many different levels of structure. Some of these large megalithic walls and frameworks, and you have smaller stone, more modern walls built on top of them, and you have different levels of all of these. So there are many different depths of cities built on top of cities was what Troy was. There's underneath 2 other cities or something when they found it. Wasn't there some multiple cities built on top of each other?
Yeah, well, I think. Well, I'm not sure how what Troy was, but I just know that the downfall of Troy led to the Roman Empire, the Aeneid.
Well, bring it back to the Roman Empire and back to Egypt and all of these theories. What you said was a repository of information is what people want to do. And in Egypt, there are the labyrinth in Egypt, which there are LiDAR scans of the ground that show you want to go down another deep rabbit hole that show a structure that appears to be the labyrinth with a large tic-tac shaped metallic object. But that's rumored in, I think, Plato and some other people of the time that the Egyptian labyrinths and there's sub-levels below it that only the priest could go into. And that was where all of the other information, the higher knowledge was kept.
This was the massive.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
one?
there's a
Which one was that
large,
called? I'll pull that up.
I think it's just the Egyptian labyrinth. I forget the site. But there's also another repository of information underneath the Sphinxes or by the Sphinx by the Great Pyramid, supposedly. But I have also heard that there's a labyrinth in Italy, and I forget the other place, but the one in Italy, the conspiracy theory is it's under the Vatican,
That's hilarious.
which the Vatican is just the extension of the Roman Empire.
So
Supposedly.
here we go. Let's go to this one.
So welcome to Let's Talk Lore, where I take Spencer down conspiracy theory rabbit holes for world building.
I mean, it's look at this.
Here's another just fourth wall break out of this. Another really cool idea of all of these different topics are people in your world can have crazy theories this too.
Yes.
Like you go into a town and you see some guy giving a presentation on some ridiculous theory of the world is flat. And just elaborate on, and you could set up the plot hook for going and exploring these ancient ruins and finding whatever you want. But it's not just someone's missing in the ruins. No, you can come up with crazy other fun things to add in.
And using it as a framework, as a little bit of a background.
Yeah.
And if you have an issue with how do you play your player, or how do you do your NPCs, how would the players aren't going to, well, they'll be invested in it, but they're not going to be worrying about how to play the NPCs. But how do you, as a DM, how do you play the NPC on the spot? Like, just look at the people that are involved in this thing. The U.S. hasn't even gotten involved with it yet. I feel they have their own thing going on. But look at the Italian archaeologists, and look at the companies that send the satellites up in the sky. That it wasn't just this one guy's discovery. He backed it up by having the other satellites do the same imaging.
Yeah. Well, it's processing the same data in the same way, or the data from different satellites in the same way.
Yes.
And coming up with similar results.
Yeah. Now, I mean,
so that could be many different things. Could be new technology and new ways that it needs to be tuned, or it could be who knows. I'm told I'm always an optimist. Maybe there are large spiral structures that descend down from the pyramids to these massive chambers. That would be insane.
I mean, it would be wild. And so I hope that it's something more than just 10 feet down in the earth. I hope that it's just,
they're built into the bedrock.
Yeah, I hope it's not tuned. That's what I'm saying. Like, how did they do that? And everything sort of points towards we don't know what they knew, and they knew something that we don't. And was that something that they knew, something that we don't understand, but that they
Well,
did?
There
mean,
there is a lot of old knowledge that we have lost.
oh, for sure.
So even just in our modern time, the memory of people is significantly shorter and smaller than it was from people 2 generations ago. Because we have to remember less. We have the world in our pocket.
Right.
We have all knowledge at the
Or
press of a button. You just
or
speak into this device and it tells you.
or what the supreme leader wants us to think is the world in our pocket. But that's a different.
That's a different. Okay, that's a conspiracy theory, not ancient conspiracy theories.
Well, it's just it's all marketing.
Yes.
But yes, yeah. What about that? You told me. So I grew up thinking that cavemen, Ice Age. That's when the Homo sapiens, and that's when not just Homo sapiens, but like intelligence really started. Cavemen drew on walls. That was the first sign of arts. It's intelligence, and they had sculptures. Now, yeah, I go to art school, Carnegie Mellon. I took the art history class. And it turned out I was dreading going in there because I'm so bad at talking about memory. Like I was so bad at that. But I loved that class, and I got great grades in it because it was just interesting. Because the art
Yeah.
sort of showed you what was happening in the world. It was a different.
Mhm.
It was history.
Well,
it was history.
it's telling history through art.
Yeah. Yes. And emotion, actually.
Mhm.
And where is it going with this? Oh, so we studied that one sculpture, the oldest sculpture, 46,000
Yeah.
BC. They had the intelligence to do that. Now, I think you told me this, or I think someone told me this when I was talking to them. It had to have been you. They found evidence of logging and building cabins.
Or wooden
The
structures,
wood
400,000.
yeah, and a piece of a tool going 400,000 years ago. So people were
Yeah.
building potentially, without saying they're building museums and skyscrapers, but these people were building more than just teepees. 400,000 years ago.
More than just sleeping under rocks and caves.
And 400,000 years ago, there were different species of us. The guy found a molar the size of this wallet. A molar, not the size of the wallet, but the size of this thing.
All
Like,
right, we got
those are giants.
We
Yeah,
got a
we're-
bunch
we're-
of different tangents
Random
we can
tangent.
take.
Yeah. We don't know what
Okay.
happened. How do you miss giants? How do you miss?
So Spencer, here you go. Do you want to go down other species rabbit holes, or do you want to go down giant rabbit holes?
I want to do both.
I know.
Let it
but-
rip. I know you know more. Just let it rip.
All right, so you have they're doing research on them now. The Triadactyl mummies in Peru that are being researched that were found in a diatomaceous earth cave in the mountains, and there's hundreds of them. There are some mummies or some structures, peoples, or I don't know the right word to say. There's some dolls that were made to sell, and they were done purposely as that and sold as that. There are others that they've done scans of that look realistic, look real. They're still doing research on them. There's one that supposedly has a baby in the womb that is 3 fingers, 3 toes. And the hand, it's not the same style of hand. There's an extra bone in the hand. Instead of the 3, there's 4. So, yes, there are other species. Theoretically, who knows what was there before us?
Right.
Okay, I'll let you simmer on that.
I just think that what was the quote from Lord of the Rings? And this will help world building.
Yeah.
D&D gameplay. You don't have to explain everything. Everything doesn't have to have a big lore drop. I love lore drops. Everyone loves lore drop, but
Yeah.
thought out and well planned lore drops are the best, in my opinion. But just remember, you take the pressure off the situation. What was it? Story leads to myth. Myth leads to legend. Legend leads to, history leads to myth. Myth leads to legend. And then legend eventually leads to, in my opinion, religion. But there's a story, a happening that happens behind that. So I feel if you were to analyze this findings, maybe the religion is not at maybe the religion is at the legend aspect of it. So what's the myth? Or what's the story? What's the happening that caused that? Rumors turned to myth or whatever it was. There's gotta be more. And so if these religions, you got the three big ones, they seem to be all at war with each other all the time. They are very, very similar in certain aspects. They all have flood stories. They all have similar sacrificial and stuff like that. I've not read the Quran, but I've spoken with a Persian friend whose uncle informed me that it's a sad thing that happens over there with women, because the Quran is actually one of the more women focused ones. And obviously it's just misinterpreted. So you take all these stories and all these similar things. It's not just the three religions, but it's everywhere. And you add it all together and they all have those similar things. Like what was the thing that happened that caused those myths and those stories and those rumors and if you backtrack it, and are we about to uncover that? And are people trying to hide that because if we uncover it, then the belief
Everything
system
changes.
the belief system is going to take a hit?
Well, I think it. All right, conspiracy theory hat on. Everything in the world goes back to.
We should get hats.
We should get security. Everything goes back to power and money, and I think people hide stuff just so they can have power and money.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of stuff in the world that we should know, and there's a lot of stuff that my theory on humans are we are incredibly specialized at everything. And we can go down any random rabbit hole and become an amazing master, incredible anything. You want to find out anything in the world, you can find an expert at it, that is their whole life. And we're now to a level of development where we can communicate with the entire world. So we can have that level of interaction and depth, and there's a far more to.
Yeah, well,
I don't know where I'm going.
I think what you're saying is people. So D&D, back to D&D.
Yeah.
Yes, these rumors and the rumor mill and the theories and everything of why would you keep the pyramids a secret, or why would you keep unknown and unshared knowledge a secret? Power and money. Remember that in your gameplay, because
it's motivation.
The players, a player is going to be probably assuming it's power or money that this guy is after, not some sort of story about, oh, my family died and I want revenge about this. Yeah. 99% of the evil things that happen in the world, for the most part, revolve around power and money, both compensating for all.
Well, but even on the other side, even on the player side, what are they after? Power and money.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. But so it doesn't have to be the world building aspect and the role playing aspect of D&D doesn't have to be overthought. You could just parallel it with our world now. And the thing with the Egypt columns and what we found in there, and the creatures and all that stuff, it is a dungeon. I can't wait to see
Yeah.
what they find inside of it. It's
Well,
literally a dungeon.
you can
And
watch hours upon hours of videos of people going down into the tunnels, into all these chambers, and it is exactly that. It is the exact terror nightmare of your D&D dungeon crawl with, all right, there's dark shit around every corner and you hear random sounds. You have no clue what's going to pop around the corner. Giant, a whole horde of orcs. Holy, I wouldn't be surprised. You find all that stuff down there, that'd be insane.
yeah,
Owl bears.
very interested to see where we go from this. What happens with Egypt. I love the story. And as I've been DMing forever for you guys and with you guys, I try to have a cool background story for the guys that you've met, and I devote more time in building the NPCs' backstories than not. But just by analyzing, and I'm spending way too much time focused on the key characters. I almost am just as interested in what's down there as to why this guy is not letting us go in and see this for years. It's not like he himself has gone in. It's not he has gone in. We don't know 100% what it is that they've found or how far or whatever, but
there's people in Egypt who say they are excavating below all the time, 24/7.
They as in the Egyptians have put up a fence around the new findings and are excavating. It's not the Egyptians, it's the government. It is the Egyptians, but it's the government has put up blockades and hidden people from observing what it is that they are doing there. It's insane. What? Imagine if I came to your house and I was like, hey, sorry, man, like I got to build this fence next door. And I built a fence next door that you could barely see through. And I just started digging. And then trucks came with lights and machines and a drone thing and one of those things that they have on Mars to go walk around. And I didn't say anything to you about it for years. That's what's happened over there. That's fucking weird, man. That is weird.
Well, there's something that happens for a lot of scientific research is they collect a bunch of data, they go do their surveys, they get all their stuff, and then they sit and process it, and then they report what their findings are. It's not a lot of immediate transparency on it.
Right.
But when it's this big, when it's this important to not, if the theories are any bit true, why are you hiding it? But if you have definitive proof that you can just be like, hey, come look at this, show the world, we're done, this is how it is, and be done with it.
I mean,
it's if you are hiding something, it feels like you're doing something wrong, even if you're not.
And then here's the other thing that's crazy, and also something that you can use in D&D, because a lot of the times the plans don't always work out, and the reasons for this change, and so on and so forth. Like the bad guy actually becomes the good guy, whatever.
Everyone wants to help the bad guy.
Falls in love with it. What if they're protecting us from something? I mean, that would be also insane.
Yeah.
What if what if it's not?
So,
what if it's not? Hold on. What if it's not aliens? But what if it's knowledge? What if there's knowledge that they knew if everyone knew?
Just end society.
Sort of like the Epstein file list. But they were to release everyone that went on that island.
Right, yeah.
It was insane.
I don't know.
But then there's the space stuff. Like, if those colonies did go down there, how do you Some of the stuff is inexplainable. Just take the
Well, it goes to anytime you're hiding information, it goes to a point of control and trust. And it's people who are in the know don't trust anyone else to have that knowledge.
Right.
And I am very, I am, I would want to be American. I would want to choose things for myself, choose what knowledge is acceptable, what
Yeah.
knowledge, if it's part of the human race, human species, it is my history, my knowledge, and I am entitled to information of our existence.
to
So are
believe
you.
to believe
So is
and
everyone
stream
else.
to believe and stream what you want to talk about and stuff.
Absolutely.
I mean, so one of the very interesting things that I saw also was that then you keep going, digging and digging, and then it's like, how do they build these structures? And what did they use to build these structures? And you look around in history for other structures that were built. And actually, in America, there is the largest man-made building for years. I don't think it's the largest now, but
All
the
right.
not the Egyptians, the Native Americans built this thing out in the West. I think it's near Utah-ish area maybe, but I might not, it could be Kansas or Nebraska. But they built this thing, and it turns out that they would come here, and what I took from it was they would come here, they would take a drug, they would trip. There were big pits built into it where you would reflect and whatever. And they found different findings from all these different tribes. People knew about the place. And this is years and years and years before you'd think that people were capable of building this type of structures.
Right.
And the whole facility was built like a maze. You took a drug in a big pit. You
Right.
walked in, they closed the door, and it was your job to trip and find your way around.
Yeah.
And that's got a cool, in another
Wait.
life, I would enjoy that. But the way that it was built, it's
Well-
such a massive thing. It was built so perfectly aligned with the moon, with the sun, and with the stars that it's just how could these guys with very limited, what we think is limited knowledge and understanding, build such a massive and accurate sculpture? Like the Mayans, they have the sun sets every particular autumn in a or whatever
in a certain area. Yeah.
and it hits the specific peak of one of the pyramids.
Yeah.
whatever. It shines through a door, and then the door angles the light to a specific portion of painting on the wall that is representative of what, Chris? The harvest. I mean,
Yeah.
it's insane.
it's-
it's
it's-
insane.
It's all about fertility. It's all
Right.
about the crops, and the other rabbit holes, night of rabbit holes, the pyramids, the other theory for a lot of the other stone circles and everywhere in all of Europe and all across the world are for lightning attractors to fertilize the soil.
Yep.
That
could be also, and the wells, maybe that was to reach the water.
that to help create the positive charge to draw the lightning to that
so
specific
they were
spot.
harnessing energy, which is insane.
Yep. Well, they were built above aquifers that would have this increased charge.
So here's the world building. So we're gonna wrap up here in a minute, but here's another very interesting world building for Dungeons and Dragons that you can take from this Egyptian thing. We're talking about a time period 40,000 years ago. We're also talking 400,000 years ago, since we found that they have tools and the ability to make like cylindrical logs and build cabins 400,000 years ago. We're talking about a time period where things were different in the sense that right now we live in a world, and it's sad, where power and money is pretty much, as we talked about, what people look for. You and I are different, I think. In the same sense, you do
Yeah.
need money. You do need a little power to survive, and that's just the way it has been ingrained in our lives from day one. But there was a time period, it looks, where money and power were not the driving forces, but perhaps it was technology and information and knowledge, you
Yeah.
know, harvest and sunrise and charging the earth, fertility cycles,
Yeah.
reading the stars, aligning them appropriately so that you wake up. There's a whole bunch of stuff we can talk about. It's that
Oh,
time period is so cool and very, very interesting. And I feel maybe the Egyptians introduced the dollar, maybe to the, like, maybe not the dollar, but
no.
perhaps they built on
Currency.
top of it, and then things
Yeah.
got lost. Information was
Well,
not.
that gives a really good thought experiment, and something I've been thinking about recently is, if money and power aren't really matter, what does anyone do?
Encyclopedia.
Technology and
Grab an encyclopedia. Run, dude. Yeah, if you take out technology and you take out power and money, who are the people that what is the driving force,
No.
you're saying?
no, it's like, if you don't have, if the motivation of power and money aren't there, like your basic needs are met, what do you do in the world? It's like what you just said, create these massive structures of science, technology, expand everything, fertility, and how does that look in the world?
Yeah, they had a
Yeah.
South Park episode, Praise Science.
Yeah.
That's
But
probably closer to what it was back then, if this is accurate, than going to church on Sunday. Maybe they went to a chemistry lab. Maybe
Yeah.
they
here's your druidic circle is a society of that.
That's what I'm
Maybe
saying.
they're hyper advanced technology wise, but they're just so in tune with the earth and nature around them and the lack of need that it looks the pyramids, or it looks a tree. They've just talked to the tree to do what it needed to do for them.
Yeah, and then the area, then you world build around it, and the area is, maybe it's harsh, and so the knowledge that, or it turned harsh, and so the knowledge has been passed down from generation, from druids to druids in the
Yeah.
dark forest to keep the
Mhm.
fertility. I already did that one where the goblins wanted to stay hidden, so what they do, they turned each other into were cows and
Recruits.
were chickens, and ate the drank of milk and chicken. But imagine adapting that into your world. It's that gives it some real cool, sticky
It fills in
lore.
the little gaps
Yeah, it gives
around
you
the way.
it gives you sticky lore to pique people's interest, especially when you subtly relate it to the happenings of the Egyptian thing, or what's happening in questions and myths and stuff like this. I think that's one of
I
the
think you just said it best. It's, what would you grab if the power, money, technology is gone? You grab an encyclopedia and run. That's what
Yeah.
you're doing. You're filling out the encyclopedia. So when they go to look of, or your players are thinking of the world, they have this random scattering of the encyclopedia of your world.
Oh yeah.
And that's cool. And the more little tabs that you throw in there, the more you, if you're building it around the world of general structure, the more immersed they're going to feel, because they're going to have a bigger sense of the history of it.
I've been saying this for a long time, dude. We already know who built these columns. It was before the Egyptians. We know who built the Mayan thing. It was the frickin' Flintstones. We
Yes.
watched them do it, dude. Like,
Yeah.
that's the only explanation that Egypt is giving us, is that Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble drove down in their circle And
Yeah. I would be surprised and impressed, and I would be happy to know. I just want to know the answer.
yeah, I do
It,
too.
it feels a riddle in one of your games that I have no clue what the answer is, and you just won't tell us. You go, nope, here's the side door to go around. You guys aren't going to figure it out.
But imagine being the DM when you're riddling, when you have a riddle puzzle and they can't get it, is so bad. And I'm so bad at giving you
Clues.
hints and stuff. Imagine being the Egyptian guy, the archaeologist over there who knows what's underneath the pyramids,
Everything.
and everyone's just guessing, and he's like, got to give this guy a clue, but he keeps rolling a 2. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe the Italian archaeologist keeps
No, it's
rolling
just,
investigation, and he keeps getting the 1.
just the persuasion, his insight.
Well, I mean, they gotta be, at some point, they're gonna wake up and there's gonna be a barbarian someone's gonna intimidate someone over there to let someone know something. But I mean, they can't keep that. Imagine if they had a wealth of knowledge that was down there and they didn't share it. What a shame.
Well, we have that now. We have that in the Vatican archives.
That's everywhere. I mean, because
Not all of it.
And because you have this world built around us based on power and money, in business school they teach you you talk to your customers and your competition, you give them 80% of the information but the other 20% you don't share. That's yours.
Right.
So you're limiting everyone's ability to do stuff. And I'm not saying that I'm going to go tomorrow. So here's the 20%. Because that's what gives you the income, profit, and that's what makes you special in comparison to competition, is that 20%. However, in a society that doesn't have money and power built into it, everyone's got 100%. I would imagine. And that's interesting to me. I feel that's where we should be at.
We're close. But that's AI, and that's another topic. Next time on Let's Talk Lore. Maybe not next time, but another time.
No, we're definitely talking travelers. Next time we're going to talk about travelers. And if you are a creator, a community creator if you are a Dungeons and Dragons creator, and you create anything from dice to books if you're a streamer, if you're just you just have a influencer of some kind, micro, macro would be awesome. But
if you make minis on Hero Forge,
if you take Egyptian art and make stories out of them for D&D, we're looking for creators to come on our show and just talk shop. You're welcome to use our platforms to showcase your work.
Yeah.
Shoot us a DM. Happy to have you on. We just had a few, and you can check them out, and we'll be posting regularly, and it's always nice to give back and build a community. Anyway, next time, Let's Talk Lore. We're going to do more D&D, and I think we will keep everyone posted about what's happening with this Egyptian thing. But what the hell?
I'll keep Spencer posted, and he'll keep you all posted.
So, yeah.